Hey everyone, I want to thank you for joining me today. And I think you can tell I'm in a different location and I have a truly special guest, a best-selling author. And I just don't want to say a best-selling author. One of the top relationship experts in the world.
Oh, I'll take that.
Emmy Award winning, international speaker, and Ghanaian resident. Are you a citizen also?
I am a citizen. You know, I'm part Ghanaian. So
Ghanaian citizen?
I get it by birthright, baby.
Michelle McKinney Hammond, we are here in Accra, Ghana, and we're just gonna have a conversation but not only is she all of those different things, but she's also my friend.
Yes.
And we just chop it up for hours and we just sit down and talk about so many different things.
And eat a lot of food.
Eat a lot of food.
Gotta eat a lot of food.
And the food must be good because I keep coming back. and as a matter of fact, we have some friends here. I don't know if they're able to, Simba, where's Simba? Come here, Simba.
Look, now they're trying to be shy.
Now they want to be shy. But there's normally a grand greeting whenever I stop by. So anyway, I just want to have a conversation.
Okay. What you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Ghana. I want to talk about your career.
Okay.
I want you to tell me about this Emmy.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me about some things that's coming up next.
Okay.
All right, that's good?
That's good.
All right, first let's talk about Ghana. Why are you in Ghana, or how did you end up in Ghana?
It was an Abraham move. God said go. You got to go where God's finger points. Actually, you know, I started coming to Ghana. My first trip to Ghana was in 1980.
1980. Okay.
And my dad and I had been separated for quite some time. My mother and father met in London. So I was born in London. My mother's from Barbados. So I always say I'm West African because I'm African, I'm Bajan, I'm British, and I got my green card.
Yeah, you have a few things.
Yes, I'm a world citizen. Okay.
Yes.
So they met in London, but then my mother shipped me off to Barbados so he couldn't kidnap me and bring me to Africa. And because it was back in the day.
This sounds like another book.
I know, it's an adventure.
Yes.
Yeah. So actually what happened was...
What had happened was...
She married an American, so we moved to America, ended up living in Michigan. Go from the exotic locations of London to Barbados to Michigan.
So what part of so hold on. Now Michigan, what part of Michigan?
Muskegon. The Detroit people used to call it Muskegee.
All right.
So my aunt was like Auntie Maine. She traveled everywhere. I think the only place she didn't go was the North and South Pole. So one year she's going to Ghana. She was going to Africa. She was doing the whole tour. She was going to Kenya.
Going everywhere.
She was going everywhere.
Botswana.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, do you think you could find my dad? I'm curious about him. I want to know something about him. You know, he looks cute in the one picture I have, but
in the one picture.
In the one picture I had, he was kind of cute. You know, and I had a father, so I didn't feel fatherless, but I was curious about
who your biological father.
Exactly. So she said, okay. So my mother said, well, the only thing I remember about him is that I used to write to his mother in Accra. That was all she remembered.
And we're in Accra now.
Yes, we're in Accra. And you're gonna love this. So she checks into the Golden Tulip Hotel.
Really?
Which is still one of the top hotels here. And she asked the bellman, have you ever heard of a George Hammond? And he said, yes, madam. He's the chairman of Merchant Bank. He comes here with his clients at 5 for drinks every evening. Can you imagine? Miracle moment.
Go figure.
So he gave her the number to the bank and she called him and said, I'm your daughter's aunt and she asked me to find you, and he was excited, took the first thing smoking over, and we were close until he passed on in 2010.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, July 3rd, 2010. I remember it well because I was speaking at the Essence Jazz Fest the next day on the 4th of July. And they called me and woke me up with that news. So he passed on, and he was a very successful businessman here. He was the chairman of Merchant Bank. He started the cash and transit business. He had a security company. He made lime oil for Coca-Cola. He had
He did a little bit of everything.
he had other businesses, you know, forex exchange companies and
Renaissance
travel agent.
man.
Yes. So I guess that's where I got that from, because I'm like a Jamaican, 10 jobs, you know, and do everything.
You
and
do
he
a little
did
bit of
too.
everything, right?
So, and then, you know, it's interesting because I found out later in life, I came into the house one day and I saw this guitar leaning against the door, and I said, whose guitar is that?
And he played guitar.
He said, it was mine. I said, you played guitar? He said, I was in a band in school. I was like, what? So that's where I got the music from.
Isn't
that amazing?
It's amazing because you're getting the full picture.
Yes.
And a lot
and
of
I
people
hadn't seen him since I was 2 years old. And my mother used to say all the time, you're so much like your father. That is so bizarre. And when he came to Michigan, we checked him into a hotel. He signed. And my mother said, oh my God. I said, well, she said, you all have the same signature.
And you hadn't been around him.
Hadn't been around him until I was like 16. From the time I was 2.
And had his mannerisms and
Yeah. And so my brother came to America one year, and we all hung out together, went on a cruise. And she was like, she couldn't get over how much alike we were, not to have grown up together.
Oh, you and your brother?
Yeah. One of his son from here.
Did you ever have the opportunity to take a picture with your biological mother and your biological father?
Together, I'm sure there's a picture of us around somewhere. Because we were all together. I mean, he did come and see her, and
so you all were able to establish a relationship, you and your dad.
Yeah. I mean, he still loved my mother very much and called her the most beautiful woman in the world, and so we had a very peaceful coexistence. They would have their family meetings about the direction of my life, him, my dad, and my dad, my mom, my dad, and my dad, and they would all agree. And then they would come and tell me what was going on, and that's what we did. So
that is very interesting, and it's good to hear that because you didn't, although he wasn't in your life for 16 years,
right?
You still had your father.
Yep.
But then you were able to gain your father.
Yeah.
And of course, you still had your mother.
Yeah.
And that gave you a different perspective on everything.
Most definitely.
So now, all right. So you had the connection. How do you end up in Ghana? Because you were in Detroit.
I was in Muskegon.
Yep.
And so, I mean, he wanted me to come and visit. So I came here for the first time when I was 21 years old, which I thought was a really significant number. And my grandmother lived in Cape Coast, where the slave castles are.
Yes.
Dungeons, I should say. And so I went there and hung out and met all my cousins, and they took me on the tour of Elmina and Cape Coast Castle, and I was quite moved by it. And I don't know, there was just something about being here, the smell of the red earth, the friendliness of the people. And I remember the first time I saw my grandmother, and she said, Ayo, we've been waiting for you. And she had this little bracelet that she had made when I was born.
Really?
Because they present these things to you at different times. And so, and my aunt said, your name is Ayo Deli. We will not call you Michelle. So everyone called me Ayo.
So
Ayo is actually a Nigerian name, and it means joy arrives in the house.
So your full name they gave us, you said Ayo
Deli.
Ayodele.
Yes.
It's spelled Ayodell.
Yeah. So my grandmother was part Nigerian. So
understood.
I got her name. So when I was named after her. My mother changed my name to Michelle. So now Ayodele is my middle name.
Understood. You learn all of these different things.
And of course, my Ghanaian day name is Abina.
Born on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes.
See, I'm learning these things. It's all coming together. I'm eating with my hands now.
Yes, fufu.
Do you eat with your hands?
Fufu? No, I still do it with a spoon, but I love the food. That's the bane of my existence. I'm on a constant diet because I'm always
eating some Ghanaian food.
Oh, it's so good.
Because that's the one question a lot of people have when they talk about coming. Well, of course, they put Africa in a monolith in their mind.
Yes.
But everyone that I know, when they come to Ghana, they talk about how they enjoy the food. And so, see, here they go.
Hey,
there they
what's
go.
going on? There's
What's
a conversation going on with Nina outside.
You hear one over here. Woof,
Yep.
Similar. Okay, Simba's not focused on me.
Yeah.
So, but the food, and that's the thing. At first, I was a little nervous because I didn't like the spicy side of it, but now I'm getting used to it. And I'm finding myself eating spicy food, and that's, I wouldn't have touched it before.
It's the most wonderful flavors, you know, just bursting in your mouth, you know. I mean, sometimes, you know, that it can be a little hot, but if you get it at the right temperature, it's just divine. And of course, you know, there's an ongoing debate about which jollof rice is the best between Ghanaian and Nigerian, but hands down, Ghanaian jollof rice.
But you can't leave out Sierra Leone, and you can't leave out Senegal.
Yeah.
See,
but they have their own food, you know. I love Nigerian food, and perhaps it's the Bajan in me, because I find actually that the cuisines are quite similar.
Between Nigeria and Ghana?
Between Ghana and Barbados. I always say that the ship from Ghana went to Barbados and the ship from Nigeria went to Jamaica.
Because
the temperament of the people, you know, they're a little more spicy and aggressive, but that whole British teetotaler kind of temperament, Barbados has it, and Ghana has it as well. The Fanti people here, you know, but you go up north and the Ashantis are more aggressive, more business-minded. You know, but the Fantis are the intellectuals, you know. So it's interesting when you start learning about the different tribes and their temperaments and their leanings. But I find the Fanti part of Ghana be very much like Barbados. And then we have this thing called wache, which is rice and peas in Barbados.
I love wache. I mean, I could eat wache all day long. I mean, I had some wache yesterday.
I love wache. And red bread.
I had red bread too.
Oh, I love that.
But see, that's because I like black. They call them black-eyed beans.
Yes, yes.
Down in South Carolina area, they call them black-eyed peas.
Yes, exactly.
So I was born in Charleston area.
Oh, okay.
So when I came here and I had jollof, I was like, wait a minute. I said,
this tastes familiar.
It tastes like red rice.
Yeah.
And that's where all of these different connections come in. You start.
Have you seen that show High on the Hog?
Everyone tells me about it because my son and I, my middle son, we did a news interview last year, and we were talking about how African cuisine influenced American.
Yes, and that show is all about that.
So when I looked at High on the Hog, and then he was in Benin, he started off in Benin, and then I remember being in Benin and just seeing just the influences. I was like, wow. So at least we're starting to recognize.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
The rice and peas, the chicken stews. And then there's even a little bit of Thai going on there with the peanut stew.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Have you had peanut stew?
I have not. Don't they call it ground nut?
Ground nut stew. Yeah.
Right. So that's ground nut is peanut.
Yes. I still call it peanuts, and they always like ground nut.
Because you see ground nut paste in the store, and I was like, well, isn't that peanut butter?
You haven't had that yet?
No, I haven't.
I'm gonna have to have Faustine make that for you. It is delicious, and one of my favorites actually.
So ground nut stew, and it has.
They put the groundnut, paste in. They do basically the light soup recipe with the chicken or goat or whatever you're using, and then they add the groundnut, and it almost tastes a little Thai.
So it has that Thai,
but it's
because it's
lovely.
And I have to say peanut based, so you all know when you talk about groundnut.
Yeah, groundnut is peanuts. Yeah.
All right.
It's lovely. I'll have to have her make that for you. Yes. I didn't know you hadn't experienced that.
I have not had that experience yet.
And then there's a spinach stew that's very delicious. And then you've had killiwilli, I'm sure, the seasoned up plantain. It's not the regular fried plantain.
I have.
I have. Last time
I was here, I had it.
I was so addicted to that my first trip.
And
we used to buy it on the roadside. This woman would sit there on the roadside.
Because it's dry. And it's a little spice, got a little kick to it.
Wrap it up in newspaper, give it to you. It's got some kick to it, ginger and onion and pepper.
It has all of the.
Ooh, it's so yummy.
And I couldn't stop eating it because I was like, what is this? Like, keep eating.
It's amazing, yeah.
So you're here.
I'm here.
How long have you been here?
I've been here for 10 years now.
It's been 10 years. Obviously you like it.
I love it. I don't know why sometimes, but I do.
But you love it. But it's a difference because you were living in Chicago.
Yes, I was a city urban girl. But you know what's interesting is I think that's why I love Ghana. I've been here for 10 years and I'm still taking pictures. And I think that says a lot. I mean, you know, just the whole fact that there's still something fascinating
every time
to see. There's an eye feast every time. Ghana to me is unique because it is such an eclectic mix of old and new. I know a lot of Americans like South Africa, but I feel like it's faux Africa. It's like DC across the water. And maybe that's why they like it. I don't feel like you have the real African experience unless you go to the outer,
like to Soweto or something like that.
And most people aren't going there. They're going to Joburg, they're going to Cape Town, which is gorgeous and breathtakingly beautiful.
Yeah, you told me about how nice it is.
Gorgeous. Durban, it's beautiful. It's like it reminds me of Barbados, actually.
Really?
But getting back to Ghana, it's the most eclectic mix of old and new. You're driving, you're on the highway. You know, we have the George Bush highway because he gave us a bunch of money to make a highway. And there's all these fabulous tall buildings, beautiful architecture, and there's fabulous houses. I mean, there's an area here called Trisaco that would make you say, Beverly Hills who?
So Trisaco is where the Beverly Hills.
Trisaco is like, you know, the, what's the name of the place that Fresh Prince lived in?
Bel Air.
Bel Air. It's the Bel Air of yes. And then we have Airport Hills.
That's
which is like Beverly Hills. I mean, it's fabulous.
Really? I have
big,
not been to
fabulous
either one.
houses.
I've seen some big multi-million-dollar homes.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't know. I know East Legon has a lot.
East Legon has, I mean, and they keep building the most fabulous townhouses. And of course, those townhouses here are bigger than the ones in the States because they love their big rooms.
Yes, they do.
I think they're just now getting into building some with smaller rooms, and I'm shocked and appalled because I just think that our large rooms, you know, and our huge houses are the bomb.com.
They are huge.
Yeah, they are huge.
I mean, I'm sitting in this room right now, and it's a huge room, and I'm looking around at all of the huge spaces. So Ghana has, you were talking about the mix of Ghana, where it has the contemporary, the old with the new.
And so then you keep driving, and then you see all this green, and you see villages. I mean, literally villages, you know, with homes made from mud that endures rain and everything else, and thatched roofs, and you know, people,
and satellite dishes.
Yes, of course. Are you kidding me? You know, my dad was a chief of a village. I haven't been there for a while, kind of, you know. But I remember when he, you know, set lights up to be put up in the village and stuff like that. And then you'll be on the highway and you'll see some cows walking by, just casually. Nobody's running over them. They've got their own lane, you know, and everybody respects nature. You know,
and the bushmeat that you can buy on the side of the road.
Yes.
But you know, the joke I have, and I said Walmart would not stand a chance in any West African nation because everywhere is Walmart. If you need it, if you need a casket, you can get a casket. If you need a washing machine, you can get a washing machine.
On the road.
On the road.
Okay, anything, I mean, literally.
Darts. They're selling a dartboard. I said, now what does somebody have? Just a dartboard.
Yeah.
But anything
that you can look for, you can find it on the road. And then if you can't, you go to Makola.
Oh, right, you can find it in Makola.
And you can find it there if you want to do the walking.
But you know, it kind of breaks down that whole narrative of the people not having anything because you come and you're like, they have everything. Everything you can think of.
And there's no excuse for not having a mask in Ghana because they sell them on every street. You can pick up a mask for 1 CD. What's that, 10 cents or something?
So, yeah, I think
5
it is.
cents.
I think something like that, yeah.
So, you know.
It's fascinating. And that's why I tell everyone that coming to Ghana and in other countries in West Africa is like an education. It's an experience. I mean, it's like your eyes are absorbing so much. And I guess that's what compelled you to stay here a little bit longer, for 10 years, I should say.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I came back and forth. I spent every Christmas here with my father. For years. I mean, that was our thing, unless we decided to go to Spain or some other exotic locale for a vacation. But I came to Ghana about twice a year, every year, and I loved it, and I would cry all the way home.
Isn't that something?
I didn't know why, but there was just, I felt like I was leaving a part of myself here. And, you know, between the food and you know, my cousins were here. It was just a different kind of life. And then, when he passed on, he had some businesses and properties and things that he wanted me to take care of. So I was flying back and forth trying to do me and do Ghana at the same time.
And that was at the prime time, of the height of your career, everything going on?
Well, actually, it was at a very interesting time. I had been flying high for many years. September 11th happened. That was the first hit against really ministry and speaking. Things slowed down drastically after that. Then I made a really bad hire choice, to be perfectly honest, that really messed up a lot of my contacts, and I ended up pretty much losing everything.
Really?
Yeah. Around that time, I was finishing up a conference that I had been going to. I was so exhausted because I was literally coming here, then going back, then coming here, and then like every other month.
Yeah, that's
like, yeah, and I was just exhausted. And I remember being at this conference. I was speaking for eWomen, the American Association of Christian Counselors brand for the women. And I remember Matthew West was singing this song, and the words just struck me. You know, it said, I don't want to go through the motions. I don't want to spend one more day without your all-consuming love inside of me. I don't want to spend my whole life asking, what if I had given everything instead of going through the motions? And that just, you know.
And that's Matthew West writes those type of songs.
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah, he
you know?
writes those type of songs.
Yeah, and I was like, yes, that's it. God, what do you want me to do in my life? Because I'm just overwhelmed, you know. And God said, I want you to move to Ghana. Right in the middle of the whole thing. And I'm like, I started bawling like a baby. And everybody's like, are you okay?
Not Ghana.
I'm like, no, Satan, I rebuke you. I'm not going there. To spend, you know, that wasn't on any list.
No list at all.
It was on my Christmas visit list.
But to move.
It was Ghana was kind of like my utopia away from home. It was a place I escaped to.
But not stay.
Life was good, but not to stay. I mean, I couldn't even figure out what I would do here, you know. Because I was wheeling and dealing. I was in ministry. I was on a plane 2 to 3 times a week, and you know. But because of my office situation, I lost a lot of stuff. I ended up having to give up my office, and you know. So around that time was like, okay, God, this. So I knew it was a setup for something else. And I just had to figure out what it was. I kept saying, there's something on the other side of this. And all my friends were like, aren't you worried? And I said, God's up to something. And I'm gonna get to the other side of this. And so when he said that, I stopped and I went, God, if this is you, you gotta confirm it. Because this is big. And I remember going into my office on Monday, and my accountant came up to me and she said,
Here's the situation.
Yes. You know, it's a little Jewish girl, you know, she vibrated, Annie. And she goes, can we have a talk? And I was like, yes, Annie. She goes, this is not sustainable. We cannot continue this way.
Oh.
You know what I would do if I were you? I would shut this thing down. I would move to Ghana. I wouldn't do anything for a year, and I'd find out what God wants to do with my life. And I'm thinking, okay, this is the donkey talking to me.
Wow.
You know?
Okay.
And so I said, okay, God. So 3 weeks after that, every single thing I owned was on a container on its way to Ghana. And me and my dogs were on the plane.
Now, the interviewer in me. See, now, you have us, we vibe.
Okay.
Then the interviewer in me is
all
like,
right.
Okay, rewind this for me. So after 9/11, things slowed down. You made a bad hiring decision. That person made some decisions that cost you a lot of money.
Cost me a lot of money.
Okay, that's where.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm rewinding it.
Yeah.
And it cost you a lot of money to the point where you said, okay, Annie comes in, this is not sustainable.
Right.
And you said,
At that point, I had actually given my office back to the bank.
So you owned it.
I had owned it. I owned my home. I had a condo on the lake, and I had an office in the same building. So I had given my office back to the bank, and I had moved into a rental office situation. And then around that time, you know, it was starting to look questionable on my mortgage situation.
Okay, all right.
So yeah. So at that point, I then had to give up my home.
Now, let me say this. The reason why I ask you this is because they hear best-selling author.
Mm-hmm.
They see this right here.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone thinks that when you have written 42 books, see,
that you're rolling in the deep.
That's right. And nothing, everyone thinks that it just it's smooth sailing. But we know in life.
Life happens, man.
Life happens.
Yeah.
And this happened right after, again, I come back to 9/11. And it had to be humbling, I'm assuming.
It was, but it's weird. I didn't really think about it. You know what was the most humbling thing for me was when I started the downward slide and my friends were like, well, your dad has money. Just call him. And I was like, I can't call my daddy. I bought my daddy a car. I've been rolling like that. I can't call him and tell him I need him to help me with my mortgage. And they were like, call your daddy. And and then the bank was like, what you gonna do, miss? Because we're ready to come and take the keys,
So you had to give up the home
and the office, yeah. So it's very interesting because I then ended up giving the house back to the bank, and the people who bought it were Christians, and they asked me would I like to stay and rent, and my rent was lower than my mortgage, so. I had searched for other places to move and was never, that was very disconcerting for me because I've got to move and I can't find anywhere to move to. And then they came and said, oh, we'd like you to stay,
So you were able to stay.
And so I was able to stay. And it was about 3 months after that God told me to move to Ghana. And so they were willing to let me out on my lease. They understood, they got it. And so it was, God God had set it all up, really.
And it was a reset. It sounded like it was a reset.
It was definitely a reset. I mean, that person in my office had just not returned calls for invitations. So my calendar just bottomed out.
Wow.
And, it was, and I didn't realize it because I was still moving. And so, I used to book out like 2 to 3 years in advance.
So you're trusting that someone is handling their business.
Yep, and they were not. And we discovered that, and it really, really cost me. By the time I was able to call people that, we didn't hear from you, so we booked someone else.
And that conference was last year.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. And I was like, what just happened here? So I kept saying, okay, God's up to something. There's something that's
for the blinder to have been that.
Yeah.
Because normally, discernment works several different ways. It's like, okay, I didn't see that. I saw it. Then I didn't see that. Why didn't I see that?
Yes.
How did that happen? And so that's when you deduct that perhaps I wasn't supposed to see it.
Exactly. And I had a lot of staff. I had I had travel assistants. I had 3 travel assistants that traveled with me.
So you had to let everybody go.
I had a PA. Yep. I had, like a host of interns that sent out books. It was an operation,
Yes. I remember hearing your name and I remember seeing the clips.
Yeah.
And this was probably, I guess, about 20 years ago. But of course, no one knew all that was going on.
Right,
at that time.
I was doing a talk show. I was, on TLN, and I was always on somebody's show. I was doing relationship expert stuff for WGN News.
So so this was at the prime of your career.
And then it was like, so.
How did you rebuild? How did you get back? What was that process like?
Well, God told me to move to Ghana.
All right.
And at the time, it was really interesting because I had been going to Los Angeles. Eric Tannenbaum, who was the executive producer on 2.5 Men and Big Bang Theory, had really liked me. And I had an agent out there, Jim Keller, and they were taking me around to get me a talk show. And, I interviewed with everyone. I went to OWN. OWN was just getting started. They didn't know what they wanted to do yet. Telepictures, Sony.
OWN has been around that long.
Yeah. And so, all of that was going on. And it was like I was always capriciously on the edge of getting something and then poof, And I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. Nobody could figure it out because I would have the most wonderful interviews. And everybody would keep me in their office for 2 hours, which they said just doesn't happen in LA, and then nothing would happen. So on that note, it just seemed like God was just shutting everything down, really. And so when I moved, I remember saying, okay, God. And God said to me, I want you to move to Ghana. it is an act of obedience for you, and I'm not going to tell you what I have for you there until you go. So it really, that's why I call it my Abraham move. He went looking for a city he knew not of, and so did I, really. So I came because my dad passed on and left all this stuff for me to take care of, just kind of plopped it all in my lap, and I had no warning. So 2 businesses later and properties later, I was like, what the heck? What just happened
What
here?
happened to me?
And I didn't think I was gonna live here, so I, rented out the houses. And the business, I thought I could come back and forth and handle if I had the right people in place. And so, when I came, it was like, well, I guess I just have to dig in and deal with what I have here. I was still writing. I still had a couple book contracts left.
So that was still, those were still viable at this point.
But around that time, book sales had started slowing down. Something was shifting in the market, because there was the time, I remember my Diva Principle book, they would buy plackets of it and sell them at Walmarts. So the check I got was like, woohoo, and that could carry you for a whole year so you could do other stuff, So it wasn't like that anymore. Things started shifting in the industry. And so those big fat checks, I know that people always think that, there's so much money in book writing, but the average book doesn't sell over 200 copies for the most part.
Really, 200
and then you've got
copies.
this, and then you've got this, you've got those few, and there's all kinds of formulas for getting on the New York bestseller list. And then, the T.D. Jakes and the Joel Osteens and those people that sell millions of books, they've got huge platforms where they use their own vehicles to get a lot of that stuff out.
If you have an audience, you can obviously sell.
Exactly. So it takes a lot of work to get to that point. I have sold a lot of books. I've sold, over 200,000. Well, it's probably more like 400,000 books worldwide at this point amongst all the books that I've written.
At that point, so about 20 years ago.
About that time, it was like 200,000 books here and 200,000 books there. But that slowed down in years, and then ebooks came out.
I was going to say the sound like digital format might have started.
So, you can still do well as an author, but the type of money you used to make in writing
it's not the same.
It's not the same. Ebooks took a big chunk out of that.
What would you say, and this is kind of like shifting a little bit, but we'll come back.
Yeah.
What would you say the formula is now for having successful books?
Carving a unique niche, finding out what people want. And then we've got social media to market your stuff like the Dickens. Literally you can put together, I'm going to be doing a writer's workshop on that.
I was going to say,
people put their books
folks
out.
know what's going on.
Yeah, I will be doing that. That will be released at the beginning of next year. So we're taping that now and doing interviews with industry professionals, and it's going to be, there is a way to still make money with your books.
Well, people are making money with the books.
They are. Yeah, they're making money.
But it's not when I say traditional, what we know is the traditional route as far as people are still selling, because bookstores are still open, even though some of the larger retailers
lot of them are closed. Yeah.
But people still, for some reason, want the physical books. They also want the Kindle. Obviously, they want the digital.
Yes.
So, but for what you said, having your own audience.
Mm-hmm. And having that thing that connects with them. I think that the most important thing for writers now is, really, what's your story? Why are you telling it? And who are you telling it to? And for the purpose of what?
Got it.
When you know who you're talking to, then you focus on that group of people to market to. And, you can do ads on Facebook and YouTube and everything. And tell your story, and you'd be amazed. Things do blow up through those mediums.
Because I'm watching people with 1 million followers.
Yeah.
That's an audience that you can, and some of them don't monetize it, which I don't understand.
Right.
You have 1 million followers.
Well, they're making money from YouTube. They probably have sponsors of some sort. They do different things, but for those of us who have books, we market our books that way. And ebooks is great. And if you own your book, then you can do all kinds of specials yourself,
So whatever it is.
I am really a fan of self-publishing these days.
So is that what you do now?
Yes, I'm actually buying my books back one by one and just re-releasing them myself.
Because you get more of a profit margin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that way,
And since I've got the following, why not?
Why not?
You know, I mean, it really is a decision that you make of, do you want the reach or do you want the money?